Okay, less than 24 hours ago, outgoing President Biden pardoned Terry Southwest T. Flenry of a Black Mafia family fame, or 263, as I guess his camp called themselves. So, Mr. Flenry had been released in 2020 as part of the same thing. A lot of people got out because of COVID. He submitted application that he had health problems, and they let him out. So he initially supposed to be on house arrest. He was living at the mom's house. He moved out briefly at an apartment in this trendy apartment building downtown Detroit. Federal parole didn't like that, so he's been at the childhood home, I guess. I guess that's the house they grew up in, or it's definitely in the same neighborhood where his mother lives, for several years because they just wouldn't let him leave. That's the house where 50% put the Rolls Royce in front when they did the deal for the BMF TV show. But that's all over with. They got to cut off his tether, and Biden totally pardoned him. So, pretty fascinating, amazing to have watched the whole life cycle of the Flenry brothers in the criminal justice system. I mean, Meech more than Terry, but probably Terry too's desire to be part of the pop culture has definitely worked and paid off. I mean, let's see, it was 05, they get in, late 04, they get indicted. They hadn't been talking to each other leading up to the indictment. According to the feds, there was wiretaps of Terry talking about putting a hit out on Meech, but I bet you that that's just something. The feds often use the newspaper to, well, local police too, to float things to cause called tickling the wire. Like, hey, say that, Terry's talking about putting a hit out on Meech so that, then Meech will want to tell on his brother or something. But so I don't believe everything I read. But anyways, but they weren't talking. They get taken to court, and they, I think, well, it's been documented in the documentary that was done. Meech felt that it was Terry's mistakes on the phone that was their biggest legal jeopardy, despite Terry having been upset at Meech for all the publicity in Atlanta with the BMF record label. But they came together and they were put in a cell together there here in Detroit in court, and they agreed to plead guilty. And they were pleading to something where they could get from 20 to 30 years. See, the feds, even when you do a plea, they'll often give you a range. And the PSI came in and they got the high end of the range. They didn't get life, but they got 30 years. Amazing, though, now, they don't even really look, they look older, but they don't look that much different than they used to look. It's almost like back like they never left. It's only been 18, 19 years. It's a long time, but see, the world has changed a lot in some ways, but when they went away, everyone already had a cell phone and the internet was popping. Now, there wasn't social media, but basically the way we live, watching TV, being on our phone all day was already going on. So, and criminality has become just another form of celebrity for many people. Not just them, but they, especially Big Meech, are at the forefront of that. And is that, I'm not saying that's bad or good. It's just an interesting way that, well, I guess it's, criminals as celebrities has always been part of the American culture, but BMF took it to another level. Even before they were convicted, when they were being moved around to different county jails and facing their charges in different places, I knew a guy that was a guard at the Wayne County Jail. Said Meach was treated like guards were asked, "Hey, can I get your autograph?" So now, what does the future hold for Terry now that he can move around? Well, he was already doing some business stuff. He had the I guess he was at the forefront of the having the BMF name on the what was it, Black Magic? What was their marijuana reefer strain? They had a reefer strain. Um, Might have had several, so he's been doing some business things with that. But now he couldn't move around. He had a tether. He had to be at his mother's house. Terry will be all over the place now. The world is back open. His brother, I would imagine he'll go see his brother in Florida. His brother is living in Florida with, I guess that's where is it Little Meech's mother? I'm not sure. A woman is down there. For those of you wondering about Demetrius's early release and all that innuendo, Demetrius Flenry was not really released early. He's going to be scheduled to be at the halfway house to January of 2027. So being at a halfway house counts as prison time. So he got out a few months ago, so it's 18 months at the halfway house, and he was locked up from 2004 to 2024. So that's like 22 years on 30, but remember, because of sentence reductions, like they changed the base level sentencing. So I think both of their sentence might have went from 30 years to 26 or 7 years. And then you take 3 years off a good time, and it's a halfway house, and it adds up like, oh, snap, okay. So despite rumors and people wanting to say that, this one told to get out, all the numbers add up for both of them, and now you can't, for Terry, Biden ended his sentence. So I wonder what the two brothers have cooking. I would imagine that the trials and tribulations of 20 plus years in prison, they hopefully have put their whatever disputes or siblings and people and families can often be mad at each other. I would imagine they put that behind them. I wonder what they're going to do. There's already been that TV show by 50 Cent, but Demetrius had to kind of direct traffic on that from prison. I don't know how much Terry was involved. Terry wasn't the big party guy, or that we know of, but I'm sure that Terry could get paid to go host a party at Live or something. I don't know what he's interested in doing. It'll be interesting to see. Now, Terry was just as much in the mix with the celebrities as Meech. He just, maybe his face wasn't out there as much and he didn't make that DVD, but part of Terry's case, which is interesting, involved Kim Kardashian and Jacob the jeweler. Well, not really part of his case, but the cascade around Terry Flenry and all the money he made. So he was pulled over in St. Louis, or near St. Louis, which is one of the hubs, and he had $5 million in jewelry in the car. And the jewelry belonged to Jacob Araboff, Jacob the jeweler, who's around again, who has some web show, I think, or YouTube channel he promotes, and he sells jewelry. And long story short, the feds, that was part of a case like, well, okay, how do you account for having $5 million in jewelry? He said it belonged to Damon Thomas, and that they were just borrowed it for a music video. And who was Damon Thomas? Damon Thomas, Kim Kardashian's first husband. He was a rap and R&B producer that had some hit songs. He had a lot of big songs in the early 2000s. I don't know if he stopped producing. He's still getting royalties. So he was married to Kim Kardashian at that time, and Kim Kardashian His husband was convicted of, well, he had to go and testify. He testified against Terry and Jacob the jeweler. And Jacob the jeweler had to take a plea, and he went to federal prison that really Terry had bought that jewelry, and that that's money laundering, because anytime you spend more than $10,000, even at a jeweler, they're supposed to tell the feds it's hard to spend your money. Though a dirty little secret is the American economy is so big now that if you're a drug dealer and you got a couple million and you want to spend 50, 100,000, that's probably not going to get any investigation started on you. But technically, it was in violation. Jacob the jeweler, the famous, so this BMF case touched a lot of people, and even Terry's side, even though we think of Meech as the face of it, Terry's side touched Kim Kardashian and Jacob the jeweler, two of the most iconic celebrity names of that whole era, and even now. Jacob the jeweler, of course, name-checked by numerous rappers. Terry spent $5 million with him just on the jewelry he had in the car. So, but Terry Flenry is out. It's official. Soon-to-be ex-President Biden has pardoned him. And Big Meech has about, 14, 15 months left at the halfway house in Florida. But Terry's a totally free man. I don't know if Meech probably can't associate with felons as a condition of his parole, but usually you usually get an exception made for your spouse, sibling, child. So hopefully those guys have mended their relationship. I think they talk. I've been told that they talk. I don't know how tight they are, but when one's in jail and one's on federal house arrest, how much can you talk? You got to watch what you say. Not that they're doing anything illegal, but just like you just really don't want to be on their radar at all. But Terry's sentence is all over. So they ended up, when they took their plea of 20 to 30, they were hoping to get to 20. And in the end, they both ended up doing a little more than 20. Terry did a lot of it at home. Terry was only in prison from 2005 to 2020, so he did 15 years in, which is a long time. Don't get me wrong. It's a long time to do. And maybe that's fair. I guess if I'll have to go through the list of who else Biden pardoned. There was no real political, there's no animosity towards those guys. So that's usually what'll stop you from getting a pardon or paroled. Like White Boy Rick had a hard time getting out because there was actual animosity from so much law enforcement and their family, because he had helped set up and put law enforcement in jail back in the early 90s. They were pushing against his release, but as far as BMF, I don't think there was anyone really with a lot of animosity towards them, as opposed to, say, someone like Larry Hoover, who, a lot of people want him to get out and push to get out, but there's certainly many in law enforcement, the black church. I've seen several high-ranking black law enforcement don't feel Larry Hoover should be released. So that's a counterbalancing force. Some want him out, some don't. But with the Flenry brothers, no murder convictions, no one with any particular huge animosity towards them to really push against their release. So the Flenry brothers, the greatest show on earth, is, well, they're not quite back together because Meech is still in the halfway house, but they're getting close. And they look a little older, but they're not old men. And Jacob the jeweler's back selling jewelry. It was all just kind of a bump in the road, you could say. And now they can get to the business of making some legal money so they don't go back. So Al Prophet, American Dope, welcome home. Well, not welcome home. What am I saying? congratulations, Terry Flenry, for being totally free thanks to Biden. Now, profit American dope.